With patch 7.2.5 being imminent now, I'm going to be offering up my own rundown of what we can expect to see in terms of new content in the next few days. However, one thing I won't be producing is a ranking of different classes, even though 'tis the season for people to be asking how different classes and specs compare for the upcoming new raid tier and patch. But it's all pointless really. Allow me to go over the reasons. The comparisons are generally based on some sims which, although a useful tool for many things, are totally unsuitable for this task. Simulations are just that. They are a mathematical model for the way the classes should in theory work in practice. But during this period of time just before a new patch, they will have inaccuracies and also parameters set which don't match the encounters you will be doing. At the simplest level, they all tend to be patchwork sims of a certain fight duration. Well, we don't have patchwork bosses, and the fight duration may well be very different from that of your group. This can mean the actual DPS you're capable of varies enormously. Movement abilities, AoE, etc. are all ignored with patchwork sims. APLs are being refined. That's the action priority list, the sequence in which you will prioritise some of your abilities. Choice of gear will not be the same as the stuff you're using. These sims are generally using a set of gear that we can obtain from Tomb of Sargeras. Do you have Tomb of Sargeras gear? Do you have your tier 24 set? No, I didn't think so. You can't even obtain it yet. So what good is this going to be at this moment in time, or even when the patch launches? And then you might think to yourself, well, okay, in a few weeks I probably will have most of this stuff. Actually, in most guilds you probably won't have most of this stuff. It's going to take you some time to progress through it. But let's say you did. So what? Blizzard are changing these abilities all the time. Just look at the changes from the last few days that Blizzard have made. What it looks like today is not what it's going to look like tomorrow. So why are you looking at a class comparison chart or a blog that was produced a week or more before the patch even comes out and based on data that's even older? To highlight another point, what you could do is, the easiest way is to say look up a video on YouTube, because there you get to see how many views it is. So find a comparison video and look at the number of views. Let's assume, just pulling a number out of our arse, that something like 75% are unique views, because some people go back and watch a video again. Now, if we assume that a typical roster of 25 per mythic raid team, sure, some may have more, but if it's a lot more, then you know most of the rest aren't getting anywhere near a progress raid. So that's about 25,000 players in top 1,000 guilds any one time. Obviously, there's a certain amount of migration, who will actually be taking part in the progress. This is roughly the number that will probably have cutting-edge achievements for Legion so far. Well, there seems to be a lot more than 25,000 views on these sorts of video. And below that level of progress, you really shouldn't be trying to get anything from those charts at all. The lower down you go in progress, the greater the gap between the skill of the players in your raid roster. This adds a huge error bar to the theoretical DPS that a class will achieve. Well, maybe the others do some different content. Not everyone raids, you know, like Mythic Plus or PvP. Well, in that case, patchwork sims are even more useless. In fact, they're worse. They're of negative use. What about classes that get a single target benefit from attacking multiple targets? This is just one example of where these comparisons fall flat on their arse. Take AoE as an example. Some classes do good AoE on the move. Some need the mobs to be grouped up and kept on one spot. So both are going to yield different results in reality, depending on the behaviour of the mobs on that specific encounter. Then think about range. Sometimes you can get the adds all grouped together in one tight cluster. Sometimes they're a bit more spread out. Well, in the latter case, the people who've got the greater range on their AoE, even if their AoE doesn't pound for pound do as much damage, can still come out ahead because they'll be hitting more targets. None of this is accounted for in Sims. So then you might ask yourself, well, what are Sims for? What Sims effectively are for is a way for you, for your character, playing your class and your spec, to be able to see under certain conditions, maybe which bits of gear you should use. Maybe which talents you should use. That's it. It's totally useless for comparing different classes and different specs. Then think about what people will do with this information. Raiders re-rolling based on what they think the flavour of the month will be? But they may be swapping a class that they play very well for one in which they're a novice. It's well known that you will do better with a class that you know and enjoy, that's the key thing, than one that you are less keen on. I can't tell you the number of times I've seen a great performer change to a class that should be better in theory, but then turn in shocking displays even after a few weeks' experience. Generally, class changes do work when you dislike a change in play style with your current class, so something changes, you no longer like to play it, and you seem to enjoy that of a new class. That works, but it rarely works when you're just chasing the flavour of the month. And what about raid leaders? Are they going to make their decisions based on this chart? Great, sit your best player of what the chart says is a bad class for your worst player of what the chart says is your best class. See how that does for your progress. Realistically, what people should be doing ahead of a patch is making sure they understand the changes to their class and getting ready to adapt if it means a change in playstyle. This will include getting ready for a change in set bonuses. Raid leaders should be making sure that they have a balanced roster and that they retain the services of their best players, not give them a hard time because some guy said the class was bad now. Every class is bad if you believe the internet, whilst at the same time also being overpowered. So hopefully that's given some people food for thought. If you found the video useful, don't forget to subscribe for further content and also share with anyone else you think might be interested in it. And until next time, I'll see you later.